My
I
own definition of Agbana is not
okay.
that a spirit is taking money from you.
Okay, let's.
Agbana is when you are spending more than the profit you are making in your business.
Oh my God.
There's
Tell us
really
more.
no there's no I don't think there's a better way to put it. So I have three sisters. So the way my mom had us is four boys, three girls, then myself as the last child. So my sisters are very hardworking, honestly, and they're doing business.
Mm.
And my sister always talk about Agbano, that something is
When it's
taking,
spiritualized,
yeah,
it's
something is taking money from her.
um,
Of
um,
course, of course, I have a fairly good understanding of spiritual matters, so it's not that I'm denying that that may not be in existence, but my approach to life generally is let us first deal with the things that are physical, the ones that we have control over,
yes,
and leave spiritual things to in the spiritual dimension, If there are things that we cannot figure out in the physical, then let's go to the spiritual to the spiritual realm to deal with those things.
episode of My Strong Why Show is proudly sponsored by Lodeta Publishing, a subsidiary of Lodeta Consulting LLC. At Lodeta, we help high-achieving entrepreneurs, professionals, and faith-driven coaches turn their stories, wisdom, life assignments into best-selling and six-figure legacy book. Because your story isn't just a content, it is a currency, a calling, and it is a catalyst for transformation. So if you be sitting on a message that the world needs to hear, don't let fear or confusion set in. Let's help bring your book to life. Book your free consultation now at Lodeta Consulting LLC.com, and I'll see you inside. Today on my Strong Wise Show, I have the distinguished opportunity to welcome Mr. Tunde Ogunje. Mr. Tunde, as fondly called, is a dynamic accountant and finance investment professional. He is a community development practitioner with over 20 decades, which spans across finance, capital market, and strategic marketing. He is the founder and the lead consultant at EPS Management Consulting Corporation in Winnipeg, Canada. And that is where he supports businesses, communities with financial and strategic advisory services. He is also the co-founder of Eco Dev Canada, and that's a non-profit that is dedicated to empowering underrepresented groups in Canada. He is also an author of two insightful books, Beyond Work Experience and Beyond Access to Capital. And I'm so proud to be part of that journey as the publisher of those two amazing books. And by the way, you will get to know how you can get a copy of that book. Mr. Tunde distills wisdom, both professionally and with passion, in empowering people with conversation that has to do with money, leadership, and drive success to go for our goals. And Mr. Tunde, you are most dearly welcome to My Strong Wise Show. How are you today, and how is Canada?
I'm fine, thank you, Sister Adeola, and Canada is fine. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the introduction. It's my
All
pleasure to
right,
be here.
you're most welcome. Let's get into the conversation because I know we have a lot to unpack. For our guests, many of them are just getting to know or hear about Mr. Tunde. And I want you to just a little background about you. As you all know, on this show, we use this show to spotlight Africans in diaspora who are making us proud, and they are doing one thing or the other in the community to fast track and keep the gap closed with regards to what we need to be doing right as Africans. I would like you to please give us a little bit background on what you do and why, the why behind it.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's complex, actually, but let's see how we can kind of decouple some of those things. Yeah, my name is Tunde Ogunje, and I'm primarily an accountant, but I also have done a couple of other things, both while I was in Nigeria and when I got here, and that includes also being in the investment industry as a stockbroker for about 10 years, trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. But here I do more. Of course, I still do my accounting because I mean that's my first love. And but here I do development practice. And by that is sometimes there are issues that we need to find how to deal with to provide solutions to some very important issues that people face. So and of course, I'm in development practice. I try to major in economic development specifically because there are different pillars of development. You can have health, environment, education, and all of those things, including economic development, which is my own forte, kind of. And the reason I do some of the things I do is because over the years, especially when I was like fully into accounting and investment and all of those things, I see those kind of professions as elitist, kind of. And so when I started my consulting back home and I was working, doing some consulting, short-term consulting, supporting some of my friends also that were into development practice, I got to the remote sides, and I saw in practice what the challenges that people were facing. And that made me to make up my mind to say, you know what, I think I want to be part of the group that can try to develop some kind of solutions to some of these problems. Yeah.
Mm. Wow, that is wow. Wow. Thank you for that introduction. And I want to ask you next, because this is a conversation that is going to, with regards to the background you have, is going to be centered across what are those things that you as a person, if you are to begin to look at how best we can support entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, or people that are already in that space, because you have experience that is, that is worth talking about. Can we just say that what are those things that you have been able to see that we need to be paying attention to when we have to look at how we can bridge the gap between a corporate 9 to 5 and then entrepreneurship as it were?
That's loaded. First and foremost, I want to say that I believe that entrepreneurship is not superior to employment, because we all cannot be entrepreneurs. There are people that will be in employment and the place where they work will not be able to do well if they don't bring their expertise to bear in those kind of organizations. But what is important, what I think is important in everything that we do, whether as entrepreneurs or as employees,
Mm.
is to be fair. We have to be fair. You have to make sure that you're not selfish.
Mm.
You're putting the interest of other people, other stakeholders, along with your own. Not You don't necessarily have to make your own interest to place it above the interest of others. Because
Mm.
once you do that, you begin to try to take the things that do not belong to you. Whether it could be cash, it could be time, it could be some things that the organization has.
Yeah.
But generally, if we're looking at entrepreneurship and what I think could be helpful, for entrepreneurs is sometimes we place emphasis on money a lot, money, capital, and all of that, and that's really really very important because, of course, you can't do anything without money. You know,
Mm.
it doesn't matter how good the idea is. If you don't have money to execute it, you just be stopped, kind of. But beyond capital, when you have the money, what do you do with it?
Mhm.
So why do businesses fail? Why is it that entrepreneurs, if most entrepreneurs, when they get money to be able to do business, they are not able to pay back. Sometimes I think knowledge about how businesses should be managed is more important than money that you can find from either a bank or other kind of financiers.
Mhm.
So it's people, then people, I think people try to be in a hurry. You understand? Sometimes, if we can use the analogy of a little child, if you have a child, the child will first try to sit down, then crawl, you know, before it starts to walk, taking the first step and before it gets to walk fast. But most of the time, some entrepreneurs, maybe not all of, not all, most entrepreneurs want to fly when they have not started crawling. So it's really very dangerous because and the danger in that is it's not only that the entrepreneur will probably crash,
Mhm.
which is really, really very most likely, but it's also possible that others may crash with him or her because,
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, any business that is in operation is operating in an ecosystem. So once a business fails, that entrepreneur goes back to the labor market, for example. So that's an additional pressure on the labor market.
Mhm.
The tax that government is getting from that particular individual is gone. The
Mhm.
people that were depending on that entrepreneur, maybe the vendors that will supply a couple of things, the rent that that guy is paying,
Mhm.
the owner of that building loses that revenue as well. So, so yeah, that's the thing. We have to be patient because there are principles, well-tested principles. And I've had the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs at a very close range when I was accountant and in the areas where I've done some business advisory. There are specific things that if you do, it may take a bit of a time, but you can be so sure that you get it most of the time.
Wow. I know from what you said, if you are to unpack each and every element of some of what you have highlighted, I know you cannot finish, but as it were, I want you to still take a bit more time to talk about as Africans in diaspora, what are those things you feel most problem that you have been able to identify that if we can just begin to get it right, it can help us see how, because we could look at how well we are doing to support the mix. And with regards to as many 9 to 5 that are looking for side income, that are looking for doing something they are passionate at the side, seeing how they can pivot at such a part that can be very, very soft. And I mean, that is very, very easy to do. I want you to speak to what are those things that you feel we can do better that can help us become better at our entrepreneurship journey. That's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, I'll go a bit deeper, but in some of the things that I've said, some of those components are there. So number one is we have to be patient. You know, patience is not difficult. We have to make the business grow on its own without putting too much of influence on it. For example, I'll say that we should learn to separate ourselves from our businesses,
Hmm.
and
How
that
do you mean?
starts. Yeah, yeah. I'll go deeper into that. So, many entrepreneurs have not come to that place where they can separate their personal expenses from business expenses.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong if you pay yourself. Of course, if that is what you do mainly, or that's the only thing you do, you have to run your life. You need to pay rent. You need to pay bills.
Hmm.
So there's nothing wrong in you deciding, okay, this is what I think this business can pay me, and it is allowable for tax purposes wherever. because government is not going to say that you are doing business and you shouldn't pay your bills. But when it becomes like anything you want to do, you want to buy shirts, you pick from the business income. You want to buy television in the house, you pick from the business income. You want to travel for personal stuff, you take money from the business. Then you run the risk of running the business aground even before it starts.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not yet time for you to buy the latest car. You know, it's not yet time for you to go get a big place that you want to stay just because you're making some bucks. You get what I mean? So patience is really very important because profitability is different from liquidity. That's one of the things I said in my last book, the Beyond Access to Capital. Some people, when you see money, people see money in their bank account and they think that this is the money that they can spend because you can have cash through many sources. Somebody can borrow you money. You can have money from operations. So you must know that you have money in your account does not mean that you are profitable. And many people make that mistake. That's the second thing. Apart from separating your personal expenses from business expenses, another thing is for people to understand that there's a difference between profitability and liquidity. It's key. It's important. And sometimes we should also try to stay on the right side of the law, like every time, because legal constraints, legal issues can be tough to kind of unknow. You get what I mean? So people should try to do business the right way. Don't cut corners. Don't align with anyone to do anything that is nefarious. Do business the right way. Do the right thing. Do the right thing the right way. Be careful to separate your personal expenses from your business expenses. Be sure you understand the difference between liquidity and profitability. Then get advice. Train yourself. Go for courses. You have understanding of how to run businesses. It's not just it's not as easy as we think those things can be because those things come with challenges. I mean, running a business comes with a lot of challenges.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And I also want you to please talk about your book. And by the time, let me get into this question that I want to ask, which has to do with money. I want you to tell us, and just by way of just giving us that one money lesson that has been instructive, either from childhood. I know there's a story you used to tell. Maybe you like to tell us that story and share with us one money lesson you've learned in childhood that has guided your path, your journey into financial and to leadership decision that you take to date.
Okay, great. I'm not sure I remember the particular story you're talking about, but and
One with
I'll
your sister,
combine.
living with your sister and helping her, observing her
Yeah,
business. And I know you have
yeah,
many, so you can
exactly.
share more any of your money lessons
Yeah,
from.
exactly. So I have three sisters. So the way my mom had us is four boys, three girls, then myself as the last child. So my sisters are very hardworking, honestly, and they're doing business.
Mm.
And my sister always talk about Agbana, that something is
When they
taking,
spiritualize
yeah, yeah,
this.
something is taking money from her.
Um,
Of
um,
course, of course, I have a fairly good understanding of spiritual matters, so it's not that I'm denying that that may not be in existence, but my approach to life generally is let us first deal with the things that are physical, the ones that we have control over,
yes.
and leave spiritual things to in the spiritual dimension. If there are things that we cannot figure out in the physical, then let's go to the spiritual realm to deal with those things.
So in
That's
essence,
my
we are going to handle spiritual matters spiritually, and we are going to
spiritually.
tackle the business matter using the
Exactly.
indices
Physically,
that.
let's deal with
So
it. So I said,
Agbana
okay,
does not exist in that space.
yeah,
With okay, so I want you to
yeah.
uncover with your experience now, based on that story, what Agbana supposed to mean, or supposedly what
So,
it's not, because you're going to be
so
doing a lot.
my
I
own definition of Agbano is not
okay,
that a spirit is taking money from you.
okay, let's.
Agbano is when you are spending more than the profit you are making in your business.
Oh my God,
That's
tell us
really
more.
there's no, I don't think there's a better way to put it. So if you start business with 10,000, for example, right?
Okay.
$10,000, and the profit you are making out of that. When I say profit now, I don't mean gross profit. I mean net profit after
Let
taking out all of
all
your
the
expenses.
expenses be met. Okay.
Let's say you are supposed to be making 2,000, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but if before the end of a particular period, say a month, just to make matters a bit simpler, if you have spent like 5,000
Mm.
or maybe 3,000, that means you have spent 1,000 more than the profit that you're supposed to make. Now, the reason why it may not show immediately
Mm.
is as you are selling, money is also coming in, right?
Right, right.
So it is so easy to be spending from the other money that is coming in and be
Mm.
thinking that you have money. But in actual sense, you are spending more than the profit you are making. So once you are spending more than the profit you are making, you are spending your capital.
Mm.
And once you start to spend the capital and you are depleting it, you are depleting the capital, it
Mm.
becomes 8,000 from 10,000, it goes down to 5,000, it goes down to, you're going to get out of business. There's no gimmick about that.
Mm.
And that's
Mm.
the connection between profitability and liquidity that I think a lot
Mm.
of people don't
Let's
understand.
see.
It's,
Mm.
it- it's, sometimes it's technical, but again, it's just logical, you know. So when I
Mm.
asked my sister, I said, okay, Anthony, when you go to the market, how, what volume of trade do you think you can do in a week
Mm.
that if you buy this volume of the things you are selling, you'll be able to finish, you sell everything in a month.
Mm.
So we got a number, maybe about 20,000 naira, in naira,
Mm.
little thing. So I said, so when you go to buy these things, how much will you sell? If you buy 20,000 worth of things, how much do you think you sell those things for? Say, that she's going to be able to make maybe 25, sell it for 25,000. So that means you're making profit. That profit is gross profit, mind you, because there's a
Mm.
difference between gross profit and net profit. So when you buy and sell, the difference between the selling price and the cost price of what you have bought is the gross profit. Of course, you probably would have included transportation, just the transportation to go get those things.
Yeah.
Now, there are business expenses that you also have to take out of that. For example, apart from going to the market to buy those things, herself will have to go to the place where she's selling. So she's going transportation and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this time it's not that she's paying herself an amount, and that's where some of those issues come from.
Yeah.
So if you're making 5,000 naira in a week,
Mm.
right?
You wait. Yeah.
You're going to eat.
Yeah.
You have kids that are with
Family.
you that will eat.
Yes.
You transport yourself from the house to where you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to her, let's look for something else. Number one, the volume you are selling is
Yeah.
not enough.
Mm.
So if this particular trade that you are in, if you cannot sell maybe like 100,000 worth of things that can make you make maybe a profit of say about 50,000, maybe 20, that kind of a thing. So because, the expenses that you run, some of those things are fixed. So the more profit, the more gross profit you have, the more you are able to cover up for those kind of expenses and still remain a little bit. So it starts from your volume of trade. How much volume can you do? Of course, it's useless if you just buy things in the store and we are not selling them also. That means you tie your capital down as well, and that's not going to amount to profit. So that's my own definition of Agbana. You don't. So I said to my sister, if you know there's Agbana, the only thing that will make me believe, take 5,000, go and put it in a drawer, lock it up there, go back to the place in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months. If you don't find it there, and we're sure that it's not that somebody has gone there to take it, that's when I will know that there's a spirit that takes money from you.
Oh my
But
God.
for as long as you can find that money there, forget about. Let's do the things that we could do, that we can do on our own, and leave those imaginary spiritual issues on their own. Let's deal with let's apply wisdom into doing the things that we're doing. There are some things that are just logical that you can deal with without having to go to the spiritual realm. You get what I mean? And
Wow.
that's the way I take some of these things. Business is scientific, It's scientific to the extent that there are empirical evidence to show that if you do things in a particular way, you get some kind of
It's almost
results.
predictable that this will.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
predictable.
Thank you for sharing that wisdom. In fact, it's something that I can also relate to, part of what you are sharing. But the fact that we were able to give that analogy, if you put $1,000 in a drawer and in the next 6 months you didn't find it, then we can begin to have a case for Agbana, and that wisdom is spot on. And that reminds me of what you have just uncovered. Like many people that have been being able to do the volume and talking to the fixed monthly that with their own responsibilities, and how can you advise, what advice will you, or structure system can you advise to entrepreneurs who are currently having this as a reality, so that they can, quote and unquote, be able to treat the Agbana factor as it were. I know this is getting interesting, but I sure get.
So financial accounting
Yes, sir.
is an important thing in life for any
Yes, sir.
business person.
Financial
So
accounting.
when I say financial accounting now, I mean record keeping, bookkeeping,
Yeah.
So you're being able to be successful
Mm.
starts with keeping the right record the right way. So
Mm.
because bookkeeping has its foundation in record keeping.
Wow.
So there are things in account that we call source documents,
Mm.
It is from those source documents that you record into your books of account. Of course, that could be a bit maybe technical, depending on the level of business that we're doing.
Mm.
But what we're simply saying is, you are not going to know how well or bad you are doing, except you have some kind of information recorded somewhere.
Okay. Mm.
So there is no, you can't do the calculation in your head. It's not possible.
You won't even
So
remember
when you
all of them.
just yeah, you have to keep some set of books. It doesn't matter whether you just have some files or a notebook where you record things or something, but of course, in the real sense of it, you need to have something that tells you this is your trading account, this is your profit and loss account. You need to have a balance sheet. So when an accountant takes the financial statement and
Yeah.
is analyzing it,
Okay.
is looking at a lot of things that you, the business owner, will probably not see. For example, if I look at your finances and I see that you're making profit, you know,
Mm.
and I see that the percentage of your profit,
Yeah.
your net profit turnover,
Mhm.
is becoming lower month
Mm.
after month,
Yeah.
I know there's a problem somewhere,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
But if you do not do calculation, you just say, for example, you may say that you made 10,000 profit
Mm.
this month. Maybe you make 15,000 profit next month.
Mm.
That looks like there's an improvement.
Mm. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the question we'll ask is, what is also the volume of your sales for the same period?
Mm.
So when you place the profit you have made on the total sales, that gives you the net profit turnover. That's when you will know, at least spot like a spot check, whether you're making progress or not. The 15,000 compared to the 10,000, it's just like it's deceptive, it's deceiving. You get what I mean? You
Yeah.
need to probe further. So sometimes I'll say you do not necessarily need to have all of the knowledge as a business owner, but get somebody who has the knowledge to be able to do some of those things for you. And I tell
Mm.
some of my friends who are business owner here, when it gets to tax period, I will say, "Oh, Bratune, can you help us do our tax?"
Yeah.
So, of course, I don't like tax. I have my friends who does tax, but I do bookkeeping and all of this. And I'm saying, look, do you have your books in place apart from just wanting to pay tax? One, I won't even do that. I won't even say I want to do tax for somebody, even if I can do it. We must first see what your profitability is before you start to think about tax. Those
Mm.
are so people are not interested in the
Yeah.
bookkeeping side of things. In fact, the tax they do is just because it is compulsory for them to do it.
Mm.
So they can look for figures here and there and try to fix things, but you are hurting the business. You are taking a big risk because before you know it, you probably get out of business.
Mm.
So those are the kind of things that I see
Mm.
people do with business, with money. That if I can have my way, I'll just want to make people change those kind of attitude.
Mm. Wow. So, looking at your second book, Beyond Access to Capital, I know money is not everything. Like that book is suggesting something that. So, what are those other things that you can kind of talk on briefly about how we can be successful beyond just thinking about capital as the only prerequisite? What are the other things that you can talk about that entrepreneurs need to start paying attention to?
Thank you, Sister Della. So, well, I'll talk about just the very first chapter of this book talks about the three pillars of
Mm.
business success. So, so those three pillars, they are so interconnected that you cannot do one and leave the other. And these pillars are operations, marketing and sales, then financial management.
Mm.
Operations is you need to get a good product, a product that can meet needs. So there has to be a gap you are filling. There has to be something that is not existing that people need, people require, that
Mm.
you want to bring out there, whether it's a service or a product or something like that. I
Okay.
have to make it to be so good and unique because we live in a world of competition. You're not going to assume that you are the only one that can do that. I do
Mm.
consulting. I do business consulting. I do economic development advisory. I do program development and management. I do First Nations financial management. There are plenty of
One on one
consulting
services
that
like
are doing that same thing.
same thing.
Of
Mm.
course, they may not be doing all of those things in one, like our own organization do, but I mean, there are competition for each of those strategic business units. You get what I mean? So there has to be a way that I want to make sure that I do what I'm doing the right way. I should be strong in it. That's one. If you have a product, like I have this book now, I think I made a good book. The two books are good.
Mm.
If I keep them on my shelf and I don't ship them out to people that would need them, that I'm not going to get anything from it. So you see, from operations, we make the product or the service, then we need to do marketing and sell that product.
Mm.
Now, it is when you sell that money comes in.
That's true.
The money that you have spent in making the product, you get it back and you get much more from it. Now, the third leg is that money that is coming. How do you manage it to make sure that you don't fritter the money away? That's financial management. So those are the three pillars. And unfortunately, people do not realize the interconnectivity of these three things.
Wow.
You know, and it's so essential. Financial management on its own, it's complex. So I said to people that financial management is not financial accounting,
Mm.
but a good financial management should start from a good financial accounting. Because you need to know the figures before you can
Yeah.
manage
Manage
things.
it.
You get what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's up?
Because
What's up?
financial management is both forward looking and backward looking. So you need to check what you have done in previous period. Then you also need to look ahead to what do we want to do? How do we want to apply this for?
Mm.
So that's one content of this book that I really, really would wish that people would lay their hands on to look. And the second one is the issue of profitability being different from liquidity. In this book, we try to use so there's in a financial statement. There are three main components of it. You have the statement of profitability. You have which is the
Yeah.
profit and loss account. You have the the position statement, which is the one we call balance sheet, and that. Then you have the statement of cash flow. That's cash flow statement. So in the cash flow statement, there are different segments. You have cash from operations, cash flow from investment activities, cash flow from financing activities. So we need to understand each of those components and know how one flows into the other.
Mm.
If you are investing, yeah, you are investing, that's an outflow. You are investing some money in the business. You expect that it's going to come back. When it is coming back, it's probably coming back in the form of operations, because once you invest, it makes you to be able to sell more.
Mm.
Once you sell more, that means you get more money coming in. If you are financing a business and somebody gives you money, whether it's a capital that you are putting in yourself or somebody is borrowing you money, that's not the kind of money that you want to spend anyhow, because you're also supposed to push this money out to be able to produce more. Either you want to use the money you get from financing to invest
Mm.
so that you can have more from operations. So it's a little bit of complexity that accountants should know, really. So most of the time, people do not want to get to those nitty-gritties, but it's so very important that those knowledge can make or mar a business.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
so those are on the side of the technicalities, those are those things. But again, like I said, I've been so privileged to work at very close range with entrepreneurs, with people who own their business, either as accountants
Mm.
or as an advisor. And
Mm.
I've been, of course, I also was a chief operating officer in some stockbroking firms. So I understand operations for some of those businesses. Now, advice, or when you say cancel, that kind of thing, is so important. Of course, you and I, we know our faith. We're Christians. As
Mm.
much as I do not project that when I'm doing my work in the marketplace, I run my life by the principles of the Christian faith, which is anchored on the sacrifice of Jesus Christ.
Mm.
So having said that, I'm saying most of the time, the issue that people have is that they don't apply counsel. If that is even if they get counsel. And the Bible says that in the multitude of counsel there is safety. You know?
Yeah.
I used to have a boss that constituted a proper board of directors. He didn't have to do that, but he did that, and he was giving account to them every time.
Yeah.
I had another person that I worked for as a chief operating officer, a stockbroking firm. That, of course, because in the market you are expected to have a board is a regulatory requirement for you to have a board, and they must meet as a time. Of course, we had a cosmetic board, and those guys will come to the office and will meet and they will eat and all of those things. But most of the time, it was the decision of the owner of the business. So people need to seek the advice, the wisdom of others when they are running this business. No, you can't be an island. You can't know everything. We have said that there are three basic pillars of business success. It is hard to find somebody who knows operations, knows marketing and can do sales, and knows financial management at the same time. So the essence of having this board sometimes is so that you can have other specialized knowledge coming in to support you in doing the business. You understand? But we have this attitude of we don't want others to know what we're doing. What are you doing that nobody has done before? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really no big deal. There's hardly anything anybody is doing today that has not been done before, right?
100%. Yeah.
So, and it's so easy. Sometimes also we need to take business decisions based on facts. Don't be emotional. Don't be emotional. If things are difficult, in a particular industry or in a particular product line, and you need to shift a little bit, please shift. We're struggling at the time in one of the companies that I work for, and we have a big floor space that we're using as rent. I also have that in my book. Excuse me. And I went to my CEO. I was the chief operating officer. So look, I listed a couple of things. I said, let's do A, B, C. Let's get to the landlord. Let's reduce the floor space that we're occupying. Because, we're occupying less than half of it, realistically. And I said, okay, we're not doing much in stockbroking. Let's drop our stockbroking license. Because once you're doing stockbroking, you pay to the stock exchange, you pay software management, the software company, you pay this thing. These are fixed. And at this time, our operations, most of the things we're doing were more from structured finance. So I said, let's drop that momentarily. No, but my boss said to me that the reason I'm saying that is because I don't have hope for tomorrow. That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Not a problem. So we kept the big space that we're not using, and at this time we're owing salary of maybe about 3 or 4 months. You don't do business based on emotion. That kind of a thing. Do the right thing. You're not spending, you are hurting the business by taking up all of those kind of things that are unnecessary. What for?
Yeah. Wow.
So those are some of the things in this book that I think will make a lot of difference if people can practice it.
I must say that for me as an entrepreneur too, I'm having some highball moments also. And let's look at the statistics that goes on to say that 20% of new businesses fail within the first year, and averagely like 50% fail within the 5 year, and maybe probably about 30% or 35% survives in the 10-year route. And you have been able to highlight some of these issues that is, funding, the aspect of you not being able to know those ideas that you need to structure strategically to people that have the hands-on. So if I look at some of these factors, how can you, and then let's look at competition. And with regards to someone going into a business that the research is not well done, and you are now having so many people doing virtually the same thing and more or less, how do you advise, or what will you advise uh, entrepreneurs or people that are having this particular challenge to navigate and being able to still remain in business?
Thank you. That's another tough question. But let's see if we can crack that.
Mm,
So there are two aspects of planning that I like a lot: business planning and strategic planning. So most of the time, you do business planning when you just want to start a business, or when you're having a new project that you want to take on, in addition to the things you're doing before. What I've seen entrepreneurs do, or aspiring entrepreneurs do, when they are writing business plan,
mm,
is that they just simply imagine that the only thing they want to do is to be able to get money from financiers, from the bank, you know.
mm,
So if that is the purpose, then that's no more a plan. It's
yeah,
because a plan
exactly.
is like a roadmap that you want to follow. So in your business plan, when you are doing your projections, don't make those things bogus just so that you can get money from the financier.
Mhm,
You try to be as realistic as possible.
mm,
And so that when you get this fund, you try to apply it
mhm,
just this way that you have said you're going to apply it in the business plan.
mm,
So most of the time, when entrepreneurs succeed in getting the money
mm,
from the bank or for whoever is borrowing them the money,
yeah,
they put that business plan on the shelf. It's no more. It's like it has expired. It's no more useful to them.
mm,
Now they start that money anyhow.
mm,
You understand? So it might get to the extent that sometimes even the machinery, the equipment they were supposed to get to be
yeah,
able to do what they said they were going to do, they may not have money for that in 6 months. You
wow,
know,
mm,
so that's one main reason why these things happen. Why within 1 year somebody can just go down. But let's put that aside and talk about strategic planning,
mm,
because we have said it in the course of this discussion that we live in a world of competition.
yes, sir.
So how do you project strategic management? Is about looking at what you want to do in the future,
Okay,
in the foreseeable future.
yeah,
Maybe you can do a plan, strategic plan for 5 years. Maybe some do 10.
okay,
But the reason is you are asking yourself, and when I say yourself now, I don't mean just the business owner, because that's the thing. Sometimes, most of the time, business owners think this thing is just about themselves.
mm,
I believe in a participatory approach to developing plans. So gather your people, let your board be involved in the process, gather your management team,
yeah,
get a process together and look at what are the things out there, what are the risks out there that we need to be mindful of.
yeah,
Have your vision. What do we see ourselves being or becoming in the
mm,
next 5 years?
yeah,
So once you have that, so what areas do you want to focus on to be able to get to that place? Then set objectives, set very smart objectives, that you know that if you are able to achieve these things, they will lead you to that vision that you have created. So
mm,
because you need to be able to, within strategic management, you have risk management. You need to be able to say, okay, all of these things that we say we're going to achieve, what are those things out there that may limit us, that may stop us from achieving those things.
Yeah.
So that's risk management on its own means that you first have to identify the risk.
Yeah.
You identify the risk, you review it, you make sure that, oh yeah, then you kind of do a quantification, you quantify it. So if this thing happens, to what extent is it going to affect us? And when you do that, you're asking yourself, okay, yeah, how do we now manage this? What do we do? Do we get insurance? Or is the risk so big? What are the chances that this risk would crystallize? If it does,
Yeah.
is this still a business that I want to do? So strategic management is huge, but many people just live by the day. So when they run into those troubled waters, sometimes it's difficult to be able to get out. But if you had anticipated some of those things and you have planned a way
Plans in
to go
place.
around it, it
Awesome.
becomes easier when you get to the place and those things eventually happen. You get what I mean?
Wow.
So that's sometimes those are the kind of things that I think happen to businesses when those things.
Yeah.
And I know there are businesses that will do all of these things. They will still fail. I appreciate that, and I really really empathize with businesses in that category. Because sometimes we make it look like once you have done all of these things, then you're home and dry. Yeah, things still happen. You may
Yeah.
put all of these things in place, and business will still fail. Those percentage of businesses, I really, really, really sympathize with them because a lot of things can come. It's not possible for you to anticipate everything. We just try. So yeah, that's what I think we should do. Planning, planning, planning. And so again, whether as an individual
Yeah.
or as a business or as a community, I say this to people. There are two main things about life. I believe in the God factor, right?
That's
But in
correct.
addition to the God factor, there's also the man factor.
And fact.
So
Okay.
for the man factor, especially for us as individuals and for businesses, there are two things: planning and discipline. It's one thing to put a plan together, but you need discipline to be able to execute those plans to the letter.
In the letter.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep
Sometimes it's not that
to the
people don't do
letter.
the plan,
Yeah.
but they don't follow through. They don't have the discipline to be able to implement some of those things because it's not really easy as we're talking about it. I've done an economic development plan for a community. It's been over a year now. I've been putting some pressure on them to say, look, guys, let's work with the implementation schedule that we created along with this so that we can start to put the things down,
Together.
you know.
Yeah.
So it's just not about doing the planning, it's about executing those things as well. So businesses should have like um like like an advisory firm that can support them in not just creating those plans, but
Executing.
ensuring that exactly, because within the plan you need to create metrics. So when
Yes.
you create metrics, what you are doing is,
Mm.
so these are the standards by which we're going to know how we're performing. So when you're doing your monitoring and evaluation, we are saying, okay, in this place we said if we grow by 20%, it means that we've done well. So within that period, have we grown by 20%? If not, what happened? What did we do right? What did we not do right? Did we overestimate? So if we overestimated, of course, the plan is a plan. We can always adjust things. So we say, okay, let's adjust things and make sure that we don't stretch ourselves. You understand? Because it has to be realistic. The objectives themselves have to be realistic. So it's a couple of things that business really have to be mindful of.
Mm. From this conversation, if you're just plugging in or you get to watch this as a replay, I want you to know that this is something you want to go back and sit and digest properly. From the wisdom that has been shared, I can see one truth: the fact that there is always no reason to reinvent the wheel. From the wisdom that Mr. Tunde has shared in today's episode, you can see where by leveraging on other people's experience, especially when it comes to the wisdom and leadership that you need to host a successful business, there are mistakes that you can easily get rid of by just involving yourself or asking for a mentor to be the third eye to whatever inspiration or idea you are planning to put in place. And so I want to ask you to check the link below this video. You're going to be seeing a link on how best you can leverage on the wisdom of EPS management consulting and some other things that Mr. Tunde offer for entrepreneurs as well. But because this show is not only about entrepreneurship, I'm going to ask my, because I remember you mentioned something about if something is not working, we have the wisdom and stepping away from the ego to step back and try something else. And I'm going to ask you this question: without you working in the finance and development and what have you, what would be the complete entirely new career that you would have loved to try if you were not in this place of working as a financial person? Or what would that be?
Hmm. So, so one thing I've seen about myself over the years
Mm,
is I don't enjoy being in a place where anyone is oppressed. So number one, I'm not even going to allow anybody to oppress me.
no
it's
go.
that's not I by the grace of God, I have a way to step away from any environment where I sense that kind of oppressive spirit. So if I'm not doing the things I'm doing, I guess probably I'll be a lawyer, I'll be an advocate,
Mm.
trying to argue for people that either individuals or the system want to oppress and making sure that they get justice. Because I believe in justice, I believe in equality, I believe in fairness, and anywhere I am that I don't see those things in effect, I really, really get so offended. I really get so offended, and I just want to try and see how oppression will not rule in places where I am. So I probably will be an advocate, a lawyer. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the next question as a follow-up. So, what's one thing that people that only know you in the professional space don't know about you that they will be surprised to learn about? What is that thing that people don't they don't particularly know about you that it will be surprising for them to know? Maybe to share something that we don't get to know about you.
Hmm. Well, I've said that I'm the last child in a family of eight. That's one. Then I'm very, very socially inclined. I hang out a lot. I hang out a lot. I hang out with my friends. I just anything that is going to give me happiness, I want to go after it. With so far is within the ambits of the law, and I'm not also stepping out of grace. You get what I mean? So I'm really very fun seeking, fun loving, and yeah, I think that's just one thing I can say about me.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. Then I'm going to ask you to, while you give your parting shot, your last word, what will be the advice? And we didn't get to talk about your family and some other things you do outside work to ease out. Oh, okay, let me just ask you, so how do you get to relax? I know it can be overwhelming. You have family, you have the practice, and you have other. So how do you get to, and the other NGO too, that how do you strike to maintain balance as an entrepreneur and also, um,
So most of the time, I just get to walk. Just I do some walking, just walking around my place. Then, like I said, I sit out a lot with my friend, and sometimes I just feel like maybe I need to see this person I've not seen in a while. I can just go and travel. I like to connect with people. It
mm,
it helps me it calms me down,
mm,
when I talk with people. So I look for opportunities for brainstorming to talk about
mm,
issues, whether they're my issues, other person's issue, and stuff like that. So that's a form of relaxation for me most of the time. Just sit
Awesome.
down with friends,
Absolutely.
we have some food, some drink, and just move on.
Absolutely. And talking about the diaspora, how do you see, in 5 years from now, what do you see? I know there are so many policies here and there, both in the North America and where as a whole. So, what will be your advice for Africans diaspora that are here in such a way that can help us to maintain the pace and still keep on the lead, doing what we know how to do and representing well? Because
Well,
mm,
I think as diasporas, really, we should try first and foremost to be law abiding wherever we are. You know, we should try to be law abiding. And one of the things that I try to do also is to find a way to replicate some of the things that are here where I am in Canada back home to see how we can have a replica of some of the good things that we've seen here.
mm,
I I really believe that the essence of migration or immigration, if you want to call it that, is so that we can have a way to learn from each other and be able to
mm,
domesticate things that we find in other places. You know.
mm,
So my advice to diasporans for us Africans especially is when we're here like this, we should know that we're ambassadors of the different countries that we have come from. So we shouldn't talk ill or talk bad about country. We know a lot of things that are happening and they are out there. You know, let others talk about them. Let's talk about solution. How do we
mm.
deal with some of these things? That's my belief. That's what I try to do every time as a Nigerian who's in diaspora, who's also a Canadian. So, and that's what I think we should all try to do.
Okay. Wow. What a rich and inspiring conversation with Mr. Tunde Ogunje. This journey reminds me of what true success looks like. And it's all about the knowledge and the implementation of those things that we've learned. Like he has rightly said, if you are watching, what are those things we've learned? What are those inspiration? What are those ideas that you have been nursing for years that you can go back home and domesticate, replicate so that we can create more impact within our environment and community. So to say, thank you so much, Mr. Tony, for sharing with us. I know
Welcome.
everyone that listens will have one insight or the other that they can start applying in their business and life as a whole. So if you enjoyed this show, I want to ask you, please don't keep this to yourself. Share with a friend, a colleague, and someone in your network who needs to hear this message. And if you're a professional, you're an entrepreneur, you're enterprising, you have an idea, or you've not even thought of publishing a book, I want you to remember that this episode is sponsored by Lodeta Publishing, and we even have the privilege to be the host and to be the publisher of my guest's first book, which is Beyond Work Work Experience. So that's the book. So I'm going to be putting the link to her with two books on the chat, on the description, on where you can get to learn more about the authors and some of the amazing things he's doing within our community. So if you need help, please check out the description on how you can also embark on your authorship journey. And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe and then to review. And until I come your way next week with another powerful conversation here on our Strong Wife Show, please enjoy yourself and be the best you can. God bless you. Episode of My Strong Wife Show is proudly sponsored by Lodeta Publishing, a subsidiary of Lodeta Consulting LLC. At Lodeta, we help high-achieving entrepreneurs, professionals, and faith-driven coaches turn their stories, wisdom, life assignments into best-selling and six-figure legacy book. Because your story isn't just a content, it is a currency, a calling, and it is a catalyst for transformation. So if you be sitting on a message that the world needs to hear, don't let fear or confusion set in. Let's help bring your book to life. Book your free consultation now at Lodeta Consulting LLC.com, and I'll see you inside.